All right, I am live. I don't know if anyone's listening, but I'm here early, and I think Zbyshek said he was going to join. Um, he was going to join a little early, so I think he said he was going to try to be here at 1:30 Central, which would be 11:30 a.m. Pacific, and I believe Poland, where he is at now, is 7 hours ahead. So that would place him at what 8:33 p.m. So I'm sure he's going to show up at some point, and I'll usually see him in the little bottom line of my staged, what do you call them? Little frames or whatever. So anyway, I'll be waiting for him. And if you're listening, welcome. I am going to continue allowing Zbyszek to take us through a presentation today. He just barely got into it, kind of talking about the regions of Poland, and he just barely touched upon a few things related to the what's going on in the east, in particular. And I think he did discuss the western part, but mostly he was focused on the eastern and southern parts of Ukraine and what's going on there. He also talked about his experience in Beslan in September of 2004, where there was a hostage takeover, a terrorist hostage takeover near the Chechen border. And I don't remember the name of the republic where Beslan was located specifically, without referring back to a map, but it was in the Caucasus region of Russia. And so I think over 300 people were killed, and most of them were children. It was a tragic thing. And Zbyszek traveled down to Beslan to try to comfort the people. And they told him, look, the government's not telling the whole story. And the more he spoke to people, the more he investigated and learned more and more about their pain and anguish and everything else. In particular, from the mothers, he discovered a pretty dark reality, and that was that Putin, having just come into power, had hoped to solidify his power by looking like the guy who's the guardian angel of terrorist victims. Of course, this is right after 9/11, so you got to remember what things were like. We didn't know what was going to happen next, and I'm sure, in a sense, this is just my view of it, remembering back and then thinking through some of the things Zbyszek said. Maybe Putin just wanted to be a wannabe savior kind of guy against terrorism, and he used it to, push around his political enemies and so forth. And it's Zbyszek's contention, and perhaps he can correct me if I'm wrong, but in talking to the people there, he thought that, well, he did point to some evidence that they only put one person, or incarcerated one person out of all those people who were involved, and most of them fled away when the Russians started coming in. And so I don't know precisely what happened, but it does not sound like a simple cut and dried terrorist attack. It looks like, maybe there was something else behind it, or perhaps just the residual effects were utilized by Putin when he was coming into power to try to solidify his power. There was another incident I recall. Zbyszek didn't touch upon this, but some people were in a theater, and there was a hostage takeover there. I thought Chechens were involved in that one. I could be wrong, but the Russians ended up pumping gas, like some kind of sleep gas or something, into the theater. And I think, if I recall, I think some people were killed as a result of that. So it was kind of this botched attempt to quell whatever was going on inside the theater. But Zbyszek said something very insightful. And if you're a Russian listening to this, listen. I've worked with Russians. I've known Russians. I had neighbors who lived across the street from me when we lived in south of Portland. And oh, okay. Zbyszek's asking me something here. I don't know, Zbyszek. Um, I have it all set up for with PDF. I could try. If are you hearing me? I don't see that you're on yet. Um, I'm going to just a second here. I am going to. I'm not officially on here yet for another 2 minutes, so I am going to respond to Zbyszek's. Um, I'm going to tell him that I'm going to try to bring up the PowerPoint presentation if I can, because he's concerned that since I converted things into PDF that it lost the videos. But just a second. And I'm going to ask him if he's coming on too any second here, because I thought he was going to come on at 1:30. Okay, so let me just flip around here with the switches and see if I can play around with that. Okay, Zbyszek, just a second. If you're hearing me, I will bring you on in a minute. I just am responding to your question here and seeing if I can. I think we'll be able to do this. So let me. Okay. There we go. Okay. I apologize if you're coming on. Welcome. I'm Tim Black, and I am from Villa Scriptura. Villa Scriptura was a channel I started on Easter, or what I like to call Resurrection Sunday of 2020. I had just been sent home along with the nation's teachers basically in March. I think it was a week before spring break. And we were told that because of COVID, we were probably eventually going to need to do distance learning. And I thought, gee, okay. And I started learning about Google Classroom and how I could broadcast things to my kids and develop a blog and so forth. And I felt really good about how I had set things up. And I initially got really good feedback from parents about how it made sense and they appreciated the organization. And so I found that because of that, I could have a much more flexible schedule and really start something that I thought I was going to start when I retired, and that was my YouTube channel. And my vision was that I would combine my love for the outdoors, and by that, of course, I was living in Oregon at the time, so we're surrounded with Edenic beauty. I mean, it's green. There's waterfalls. There's the Columbia Gorge. There's uh, beauty. There's wine growing in the Yamhill area, Willamette Valley, all the way down to Eugene and beyond. There's the University of Oregon. There's the McKenzie River. There's desert, high desert. There's Crater Lake. There's bike rides around Crater Lake. There's 11 or 13 designated bike routes in the state of Oregon, going up as far northeast as the Wallowas. I've done that one. I've gone down the coast, at least part of the coast, with my friend Mark a couple times, which is beautiful. The Oregon coast is just gorgeous. I mean, it's rocky. It's not too crowded, especially on some beaches. You can be by yourself essentially on a beach, and it's just not a place where you see wall to wall people putting suntan lotion on. It's just not that kind of beach. It's windy, it's cold, it's got sneaker waves. It's not exactly the place where a lot of now people do surf if they're wearing like some kind of wetsuit or dry suit, but it's cold, and so you don't see people bathing in. But it's beautiful. I mean, Cannon Beach and those rocks that come out, those haystack rocks, or in other places, it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous. My favorite place is the area north of Florence because it's not real. It's Central Coast, so it's kind of across from Eugene. It's not really crowded, and it's got great places to stay. We have one place we just love. We actually honeymooned near Yachats in a cabin owned by someone my mother worked with. And so it's always had a near and a special place in our hearts. And we just love it there. And Cape Perpetua, Hasita Head Lighthouse out west, those are just some of my favorite hiking locations. So anyway, that's what that's all about. And so I wanted to combine my love for the outdoors and show beautiful places, but also insert Bible teaching, you know. So for instance, I might go on a hike and on the ocean, near the ocean, and then I might talk about the power of God or the theme or the symbols that you see in the scriptures that relate to the sea, or instances where the ocean or the sea played some kind of, you know, supporting role, if you will, in the story. But anyway, you know what it does for me? It gives me a creative outlet. You know, being a teacher for 30 years, you got to understand, it's basically a song and dance every day, you know. And I come from an acting background. I did Shakespeare plays, musicals, dramas, comedies in high school, and a little bit outside with community theater in college, at Lane Community College, and very little theater in Eugene. And so I've had this theater background. I play guitar, I sing. So I'm kind of a performing arts kind of guy, and teaching gave me an outlet for that, except for the poor kids. They're like a captive audience, unfortunately for them. So whether my gig is good or bad, you know, tough. But anyway, every day you're being creative. You really are, because you're thinking of ways to stimulate interest in, you know, 10 and 11-year-olds, which is not the easiest thing to do. So I started this channel, and my big thing, my passion, was to get people excited about the resurrection. I mean, here's the irony. You go to Easter service, just do an experiment. When you go to Easter service this year, if you do, notice the absence of anything related to your future resurrection. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about the belief that you're an immortal soul. And I'm not saying I share this belief. I actually don't. And if you want to know why, you can go and watch my episodes on Villa Scriptura. I just develop it, I think, fairly clearly. Why scripturally it's just not found in there. In fact, I'll give you $1,000. I will give you, I'm serious, I will give you $1,000 if you can glean from the scriptures anywhere where it actually says, not where you think it's implied, but where it says that you right now have an immortal soul. I will give you $1,000. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. You'll notice. I will give you $1,000 if you can find it. Now, if it's true that we don't have an immortal soul, then a lot of other things go by the wayside. And I get into that, and I'm not going to do it now, but I get into that in many of my episodes on my Villa Scriptura channel. Now, Paul spent an entire chapter, or if you will, section, because there really weren't chapters when the Bible was written. Those are just inserted by people, translators and other people. But he spent his largest chunk of time with a problem in Corinth, and that was that some people did not believe that there would be a resurrection. Remember, philosophers like Plato and later the Gnostics, that was a group of people who thought matter was evil. So, solid, liquid, gas, things you're made out of, potassium, calcium, carbon, all that stuff. They thought that matter was evil and that your release from your body as some kind of spirit or ghost or whatever you want to call it was like the high point of, what you were looking forward to. So the day you would escape from your prison, as that's what Plato called it. There's a song with that Plato phraseology in it that I used to sing all the time, and I now do not. I refuse to sing it. It was actually a song written not very far from where I'm sitting right now in southern Missouri. And I can get into that some other time, man, but that's another whole interesting story. But anyway, I'm looking forward to what Paul proclaimed in 1 Corinthians 15. I'm looking forward to what John proclaimed in John 5 and John 11. I'm looking forward to what Jesus proclaimed, to what Daniel proclaimed in Daniel 12, 1 through 2. You read those passages and you'll see what I mean. I'm looking forward to what Job proclaimed or alluded to, and I believe it's the 19th chapter where he said, "Yet in my flesh I will see the Lord." He didn't say, "Yet in my ghostly spirit I will see the Lord." He said, "In my flesh I will see the Lord." And that coming from a man who had boils and all kinds of things that, would make his flesh very, very painful. So anyway, I won't belabor this, but because all you have to do is go and look at my episodes. And no, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. No, I'm not a Mormon. No, I'm not a Christadelphian. So look it all up. You're going to find all this stuff about
what do we call people who don't believe that they're an immortal soul? What do we call those people?
Everybody always has to have a label for people. And I always tell people when they accuse me of being a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon, I say, look, I like windows in my churches. And I would never, ever, ever ride a bicycle with a tie on. And that, that pretty much clams them up. Hey, if you're a Mormon and if you're a Jehovah's Witness, hey, I love you. And I want you to know about Jesus and the kingdom that's preached about in the scriptures. And, I had some Jehovah's Witness ladies walk down my street when I was with my granddaughter the other day. And I had a great conversation with them. And we talked about the high priestly ministry of Jesus. It was wonderful. Okay, Zbyszek, I think I see you on. Let me do my thing and bring you on. I'm chattering away talking about the importance of the resurrection. So anyway, I have a welcome, Zbyszek. By the way, I love the lights in the background. It looks like you've done some research on proper YouTube etiquette with the lights in the background. So
it's all right.
No, I commend you. It's wonderful. It's great. It's great. So anyway, before I start, Zbyszek, I did problem solve that out, and I am able to bring up the PowerPoint. So I think what we'll do is when we do your presentation, I will initially bring up the PDF form because it's easier for me to work with. And then what you can tell me is that, hey, Tim, there's a video I want to show, and then I'll go to the PowerPoint. Okay.
Okay.
I think I got it all set. Now, I want to tell you before I do this song here, I want to tell you that I've got a bit of a sore throat, but I'd like to start our time off with some praise because, I was thinking today, reconnecting with you, Zbyszek, has been wonderful. And it's also kind of sobered me up about the Ukraine and what's going on. And, and I've been having lots of conversations with people, and even people who aren't even believers, are asking and they're intrigued and they find you interesting. Yerzhan, you remember Yerzhan from Kazakhstan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He wrote me and said, Tim, that video was everything I wanted it to be. Nostalgia. It was a challenge. It was, it went on and on and on. It was great. So he really enjoyed it. And I will, I figured out that the best thing to do is when we're done, I take the recorded archive raw copy and I put it into YouTube, and that's the best way to do it. So I will do that.
Thank you very much.
We can disseminate that to anyone. They don't have to be a Facebook member. So anyway, so if you could just hang tight there in the green room, in the waiting room.
Yeah, of
All
course.
right. And I'm gonna do a song now. Now, Zbyszek, I know that you're a knowledgeable Bible guy. You taught Bible studies in our apartment in Kazakhstan while my wife was out making plof, and this guy named remember Bauerjan? Remember Bauerjan? Remember him? He actually went into the kitchen to try to tell Sabrina how to make plof.
Oh man.
She still remembers it. She said, that guy, right? He tried to get into my kitchen and tell me how to make plof. And she tells me to this day that, hey, he actually incorrectly, he told me to take the lid off the rice, because you don't do that, right? You don't take the lid.
It's about the crossing culture borders.
Well, listen,
you cannot be blind on that.
Well, I think everyone cooks rice. Does everyone cook rice by taking the lid off before it's soft enough? I don't think you can do that. Now, we cannot go against physics, even if we're cross-cultural. All right. So anyway, I have a challenge for you.
You cannot go against the wife who is cooking in the kitchen. It's more important than physics.
Very important. I agree completely. Good point. Good point.
Oh
I'm gonna do a song, and if my voice cracks, please don't laugh. Okay. I want you to keep your sober Eastern European face on here. Okay. Just be the solid, sober Polish man I know you can be. So I am going to sing a song that's based on a psalm. And when I'm finished, Zbyszek, I want you to try to tell us which psalm it came from. All right. Are you ready for this challenge? I can't hear you. Oh, I turned you off. Let me. Okay. For some reason.
Let's try.
Okay. Your mic was off.
I will turn off the mic. So.
Okay. So I'm going to have you guess what the psalm is. All right, here I go. Now, if I'm a tenor, but the song's a little high, so if my voice cracks and I sound like a 13-year-old with a cracking voice, please don't laugh, okay? Here we go. Oh, Lord. I got to do the intro. Just a minute. Oh, Lord, our Lord, your name is forever. We sing with creation the song of praise. The heavens above echo your wonder. They tell of your power now and always. From children and infants, your truth is proclaimed. All of the world will know of your fame. Glory, glory everywhere, through the earth and through the air. Glory, glory to be found through the sight and through the sound. The world dances this beautiful ballet of your glory on display. Who then are we that you should consider the King of the kingdom? You care for us. You gave us form just under the angels. We're made in the image of your love. The beasts of the field and the birds of the air follow us in this heavenly prayer. Glory, glory everywhere, through the earth and through the air. Glory, glory to be found through the sights and through the sound. The world dances this beautiful ballet of your glory on display. Maker of the universe, maker of the land and sea, maker of the moon and stars, maker of me. Glory, glory everywhere, through the earth and through the air. Glory, glory to be found through the sights and through the sound. Oh, the world dances this beautiful ballet of your glory on display. All right, why don't you turn your mic on? Are you able to do that, or do I need to do that? Okay, I unmuted you. Oh, you're muted again. Can you do your own mic? Okay, I'll let you unmute yourself. Okay, let me do it. Okay, you're good now. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, I just think if I turn it off, I can turn it on. But if you turn it off, I cannot turn it on.
Ah, okay, gotcha. I will leave it alone. I will not touch it anymore.
All right. No, but I think it's what happened.
Okay, any idea where that comes from?
Good one. No, I thought that on the display, I don't know, was it 108 or what?
Ooh, you're close. You've got the last digit correct. It's Psalm 8.
Yeah.
Psalm 8. So let
Psalm
me
8.
Psalm
Okay,
8.
Psalm 8. Okay.
Psalm 8, yes. Yeah, I'll just read it. I'll just read the first few verses. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have displayed your splendor above the heavens. From the mouth of infants and nursing babes, you have established strength because of your adversaries, to make the enemy and the revengeful cease. And then it goes on to, he says, when I consider the heavens, the work of your fingers, etc., the moon and the stars. It's a great, I think it's a Psalm of David, where he's just overwhelmed with the creation, speaking of the glory of God. And, you and I have been to some beautiful places. I know, Zbyszek, you've been to America, haven't you?
Yeah.
What was your favorite?
Yes, sure.
What was your favorite place?
Oregon, Portland, of course.
Now, you did go to the coast.
Oregon.
Well, wait a minute. You did go to the coast, though, didn't you?
I did go to the coast.
And did you find that beautiful?
Yeah, of course.
Did you go to
Ocean is beautiful.
Did you go to Powell's bookstore in Portland?
I don't remember that. It was long, long ago.
Okay.
But probably I didn't, because if I went, then I knew it.
Did you go up to the mountains at all, or did you just?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, okay. Of course, and to the falls.
Oh, Multnomah Falls, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful, isn't it?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it's Portland was nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful state. Things have changed politically, and there's a lot of graffiti and drug problems and tents everywhere and that kind of thing. And a lot of people are frustrated with that. But it's the nature. It reminds me of when I first went to Kazakhstan, because the things that the communists built were overwhelming and gray and reminded you of man is big, man is powerful. But then you looked above and you saw those beautiful Tian Shan mountains, and you said, Lord, you're more powerful and you're more beautiful. And you make more beautiful things than these communists could ever make. And it's the same thing here. I'm not picking on the communists, because I feel the same way. When I go out into nature, it's like, oh man, this is God's creation. And it resonates with me. In fact, I'll just say very briefly, I have this crazy friend, Mark, who I love. He's like my closest brother in the Lord. And we cycle a lot. He lives in Oregon. And he said, Tim, let's go snow camping. I said, what? Snow camping? Snow camping. Okay. So he had this Arctic tent that you can use for mountaineering. It holds up to blizzards and things. And we got our snowshoes and we hiked. And then I went through the whole thing. We built a little kitchen out of snow and cooked and tried to stay warm at night, even though you're sleeping on snow and with an air mattress that's this thin, and you're trying to stay warm and you want to pee. And I don't want to get out of my sleeping bag to pee. Oh no, But in the middle of the night, he had a little flask of scotch, okay, which is kind of nice when you're cold. He broke it out. We took a sip and he said, Tim, why do we do this? Tim, why do we do this? Why do we come out to the cold and do these kind of crazy things? And I said, you know what, Mark? I think it's because we're made to be stewards of the earth. That's how God created us. With Adam, he said, Adam and Eve, here's this garden. Take care of it. Take care of it. And I'm here with you. And I will be with you. My presence will be with you. And the only thing I ask is that you not eat that from that tree. And of course, we know that we're talking today about issues that flow out of that one bad decision. And now multiple bad decisions have been made throughout time. And I was thinking, Zbyszek, how Jesus said, there's going to be wars and rumors of war until I come. There just are. There are going to be wars and rumors of war. And that's, and this is a rumor that became a war, didn't it? Yeah. Your mic's back in. So I want to just to ask you, I want you to spend most of the time today going through your presentation, but I wanted to ask you a couple of things. First of all, I've put up here on the screen the organization that you work with, which is called Dutch Civilians in Action for Ukraine. Is that correct?
Yep. Very good.
And can you summarize, what is their main mission, would you say?
The first thing is that they came up as answer to the situation that happened in Ukraine in February a year ago. So they are just people, younger people in their 30s, who responded spontaneously on the need. And it's, for me, was very important because 8 years ago, when the Russians came and took a very western part of Ukraine and Crimea, the European Union didn't answer properly. They did not really do any action almost against it. And it helped Russians to think, okay, we really can do what we want. And I'm sure if the European Union answered in the proper way 8 years ago, or 9 years ago, maybe we wouldn't have this situation today.
This was around the time of the Sochi Olympics, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was where Odessa, is that the city of Odessa in those areas, in the Crimea?
Odessa is not in the Crimea, but on the Black Sea. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was not taken, but the big part was.
Okay.
And the European didn't know how to, what to do with it, because it was quite unusual action.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, when the Russian attacked, Europe stand in a different way, and the States, of course, as well. And I like that these people answered, and they came to Eastern Europe to pick up refugees and help them. And they asked me to help them how to organize all of this and how to do the logistics. So I joined them, and I served them more as a consultant and also a guide when we go to Ukraine.
Okay, that's great.
It's my role with them. Yeah.
So their primary objective is not missionary work, it's humanitarian work. Is that correct?
Yes, it's humanitarian work, and it's mostly helping civilians.
And when you're
very interesting is that they are also access to the Christian churches and the fellowships and individuals who are doing the work also in Ukraine, and the locals, and we are always amazed because there is this difference between the humanitarian work and the Christian work, that the Christians see a little different all the situation, and it's one thing they understand it differently, but also the approach is different. The man is the most important, the person is the most important, but they don't cross some of the borders in a sense, which the other humanitarian organizations may cross. And now the question: what are the borders
Yes.
that they don't cross?
Hmm.
I think the most important is that they respect others, and they know that everyone is created by God, and that there is a redemption, and that they don't they see Russians as an enemy, but they know that God can change the situation, and that there is forgiveness, and that there will be time of healing,
Yeah.
and it's much longer process. It is not who wins the war; it is who wins with the evil.
Yes. Yes. So what you're saying is you recognize that even if the war stopped today, there would be leftover animosity because, of course, you've just watched these Russians come in, one that's not the entire ethnic group of Russians, but it's pitted two nations against one another. And there's a long history there in, especially, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but especially Eastern Ukraine, of tension between the Russian population and the Ukrainian population. Is that correct?
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's good.
So
Yes.
there's animosity that has preceded this war. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And there will be. I mean, today, the tension is so strong, and for many of Ukrainians, it became not just political. It's not just a war with Russia. It because of the time. I mean, how long it lasts, and how many people died, and what happened to the nation, and what is happening. Which means the young people are dead. There are a lot of wounded people, a lot of young men wounded because of the war.
Hmm.
The separation between husbands and wives. Some of them left the country. The destruction, the buildings that are destroyed, the houses, the cities, and also the children who are kidnapped and taken somewhere into Russia, and nobody really knows what's going on. All of this and the stories from Bucha town and others, where it was just it's a crime. These things became very personal also. So even if the governments, international governments, stop the war, and they agree not to, that the war won't be continued. Oh, I don't know how long the healing will take.
Hmm. Just one other question, and then I want you to get into your presentation. How do you personally stay encouraged or centered in your faith? Because I know when people go through trauma, or when they see trauma, that they kind of go through a Job like experience where you're beginning to question, or other people around you, like in Job's case, are formulating um, solutions that are really not from God. They're just human solutions. So how do you handle not allowing all of this horror that you see to destroy your faith? How do you deal with that?
I can see that among the Ukrainians today, even Ukrainian army, there are a lot of soldiers, a lot of officers who are coming to God these days, and they put their faith in God. And it's not only because, like we would say, oh, because they're afraid to die. No, I don't think it's the reason. Of course, probably part of it is a big reason, but there is something bigger. what the Ukrainians are looking for these days is the truth.
Mm.
And they cannot hear the truth from human mouth anymore. Because people they trusted, the brother nation, the nation who was mixed with the Ukrainian nation, marriages, businesses, even army. There, I met brothers who one was before, of course, in Soviet times. One was flying for Russia, and another one was flying for Ukrainian battleships. And that's, I mean, it's all of this.
Mm.
And today they say you're our enemies, and the Ukrainians they defend themselves. They don't attack Russia now.
Hmm.
They defend themselves because they defend the truth. They feel like they defend the truth, and it's what they are looking for in God. They look for an absolute. They look for not for a man who will tell them what to do, but for somebody who really understands the situation and they want to trust
Mm.
that person.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I think it's in Numbers somewhere where it says, God is not a man that he should lie, or a
Mm,
son of man that he should repent. Has he
yeah.
said, and will he not do it? Has he spoken, and will he not make it good? And
Mm,
God is not like us. He keeps his word. And I was just talking to Sabrina. We went on a bike ride this morning. It's like 70 degrees here, Zbyszek. It's beautiful and warm. It feels
wow.
like early summer. It's great. And we went down this beautiful trail and we went and looked at this outside art display that's called Crystal Gardens. It's beautiful. So we're discovering beautiful things here. Anyway, we were talking and about God and how we can, if we're in a crisis, sometimes we can hear that the devil say things in our ear like, God's given up on you. God's
Mhm.
not. God, you've done too many bad things for God to love you. We start listening to that and we have to wait a minute. Wait a minute. He called me out of darkness. He sent his son to die for me, to empty himself. He's made an investment in me. He's not going to let me go that easily. Wait a minute. We have to constantly be telling ourselves these things and that's why we need to be in the word, right? To get the truth into our minds because there's lies everywhere.
Mm, yeah. So part of our mission is, and with the that civilian action is to bring the truth to people in the east part of the Ukraine, because the Russian propaganda is very strong. It's so strong that one of our friends, he was former one of my clients in Ukraine, in Kharkiv before the war, and he left Kharkiv first week with his wife and a little daughter. But his sister stayed in the Kharkiv, and when the Kharkiv was bombed, she was in the basement. So he went to Odessa and called her from there, and said, you should leave. You still can evacuate from there. And she says, no, I won't leave. I am here, and I hate those Ukrainians who bombed our city.
Oh no.
And it was his sister who, they live together in Ukraine, but the propaganda of Russian is so strong.
Yeah.
I visited one of the towns there, and I will talk about this town, but one in the east, and it was occupied for 8 months, and they were distributing a newspaper printed in Russia. And this town, the Ukrainian town, was among about 5 towns, so among 4 other Russian towns with the news, which means, it's already like Russia for them. And so, and these people were living there. So this, 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 these lies were created even before as well as during the occupation.
Oh.
And it's why we are going there, because we want to tell them we are here and we come from Europe, because we are not fighting against you, or we are like Russia is saying, we are using you for our own goals, but we are here to help, because who really is evil in a sense, and who we are fighting is for sure not coming from the West.
Yeah.
And it's very, I feel it's a very important mission, because it's the mission of truth. And sometimes we come and we are tired. We drive for say 6 or 8 hours, and it's the roads are not as good. And I remember last time we're driving, it was about 10 o'clock. We have 1 more hour to drive, because then the town is closed, because you can't be on the streets after 11. So we want to hurry up, and not to sleep outside of the city, but to come to our friends. So we drive, and probably about 20 yards, we see that there is no bridge. The road, yeah, road is ends, so my
Surprise.
friend pushed the brakes, and we stopped, and we were safe. But it's what happens. So the roads are not easy. The vehicles, the military vehicles, drive without the lights, and they drive fast,
Yeah.
when you are among them. So because so and there are no lights on the roads. I mean, it's dark, especially in winter. There is no stars, or you don't hear. I mean, it's hard. So then we got there, and we come to their house. We tired, exhausted, and then of course they are ready with tea and something hot to eat, and we spend time till 2 or 3 o'clock, and we talk,
Yes.
because they want to share their stories, and they want to talk to somebody who not only listens, but who understands their truth, and who can say, yeah, this is what we've heard, this is how we see it, this is exactly what you're saying. We know you're free. You know that Ukrainians were not killing you. We know that they were not torturing you. It's all lies. And I remember they told one of these families told a story that two soldiers, one was an older soldier, they came, Russian soldiers who came to the gas station when the city was occupied, and they wanted some petrol, of course, but they talked to them, and said, how was it, before we came? It must be very difficult. And these Ukrainians were saying, no, we were fine. Why do you say it was difficult? Oh, because we were sad that they used you. You had no food, but sorry, we can see all these shops which are now destroyed, but looks like you have electricity in your houses, and we don't see that it was so poor.
Yeah.
And they said, no, it wasn't poor. So they said, did they torture you, or were you scared to go outside? And say, no, nobody did that, anything like that. And this older soldier said to the younger, you see, they all lie in Kremlin. This is all made up.
Yeah.
So these people are
And
even in
I
this.
understand. When you say are you talking about the Kremlin?
Yeah, Kremlin. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that.
On the Kremlin, yeah, they lie. They made it up. And so we are there, and we just not only listen. We bring them food. We bring them things that they need, because the Russians were saying we are coming to help. The truth is, they were not helping. I mean, they were destroying the cities, and these people, they could see it. Uh, they were exchanging money, rubles, the Ukrainian hryvnia into rubles. And although the 1 ruble was like, I think, 25 hryvnia or something, on exchange. I don't remember on exchange rate, because I haven't been in Russia for a while. But it was quite a big exchange, and they were exchanging in 1-to-1. And it's one thing. The second, they were saying, now you need to buy only with rubles. You can't buy in your currency. So they had to exchange into rubles, which Russians took their currency, Ukrainian currency. They were taking it to Russia and exchanging with 25 times more. So people understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So when we come and we bring, food, warm clothes when, during the winter time, the heaters and other things to help them to survive. They people understand who's friend and who really is, trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, last time you were where we left off when I was having some technical difficulties, I think we were looking at either this map or let me move this up a bit.
Yeah, of course. We were looking at this. Yeah, the next one.
Okay. Is this where you want to be right there?
Yeah, maybe one
Before?
before, because I
Okay.
can. Yeah. So there is a map. I don't know how well it's you can see, but
Okay. I'm
we
gonna try to take myself off the picture here and see if I can make it bigger.
yeah, because then we can see. Yeah. The map is not bigger, but yeah, but it's okay. I am bigger, Tim. Yeah. The map is the same size, but I'm bigger. So if you want, you can come up, and it doesn't change much.
There we go. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's all right.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Let's
so we came to in one of the on our first trip, no, second trip, we came to Kharkiv, which is north east, and it's one of the. It was former years ago, of course, former Ukrainian capital. It's about 1,500,000 people live there, and it's very important and a big city. And the Russians thought that they will take over it just overnight because they thought that they prepared everything and they bought, people inside that will give up and will give the city to them. But it did not happen. So what they did, and I want to show you, and it's if we go next, it's the name of the town. The city is
Okay.
Kharkiv.
Let me go.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Kharkiv is, as I said, it was a former capital city, and it's very important. It's kind of, it's if Kharkiv gives up, it's yeah, I think it's the biggest city in the eastern part. So it would be quite victory,
Are
and it
there
did not happen.
are there a lot of
Yes.
Russians that live in Kharkiv?
There are some. The map before we talk about and I explained in our video the last time, the part one, is
Right.
that Ukraine is also divided into east and west. And the eastern part of Ukraine, people speak mostly Ukrainian, and in the western part and the eastern part, they speak Russian mostly.
Okay.
They will communicate some or maybe more understand Ukrainian, but mostly they would use Russian. For your knowledge, it would be quite similar when you were in Kazakhstan and the Kazakh people understand Kazakh language, most of them, but also most of them would they would rather speak Russian than Kazakh.
Yes. Right.
And it was quite similar or is quite similar in the eastern part of Ukraine.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and also many of them from the eastern part, they would go because Ukraine had a very difficult economical situation last years. So many of them would go to Russia to work as well. And there would be also a lot of mixed families. A husband or wife would come from Russia and another part from Ukraine. So they were they were. I mean, the Western Ukraine, Kiev and Western Ukraine, was afraid that Kharkiv will give up.
Hmm.
That there is such a. You see, we would say how to say it. They knew how big connection is with Russia. But they believe that they are Ukrainians and that they will, fight.
Yeah.
But there was this fear.
Hmm.
There is such a big connection that if propaganda works good enough, and that the Russians did their homework in a sense and paid off some of the mayors on, the people in the leadership positions, who knows what happens.
Yeah.
But Kharkiv was very strong. The mayor of Kharkiv is really brave and good man, and they did not allow it. And the city of Kharkov, even civilians were fighting for their own town. So it's why. But
Yeah.
let's see what Russians did to this city. You know,
Okay.
it's 1,500,000 people, so it's quite big, and so we can see how destroyed the buildings. And if you just go from one to another one, yeah, the pictures.
Yeah, that's devastating. Oh,
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So they couldn't get into this. There is, yeah.
Zbyshek, is that a school? What kind of facility is that? Is that a school?
This is a school. This is a
Oh,
school.
that's horrible.
Yeah,
Were
they
there
did not really.
were there people?
Probably, yeah, easily saying they destroyed more civilian buildings and public buildings than any military infrastructure.
When do they
Kharkiv.
fire at the schools? Do they fire at the schools when the children are in there?
They fire whenever. Nobody knows when.
Oh, that's horrible.
Because it usually comes in the mornings or late night, after 11 or before 7 in the morning, or after 11. But during the day also we could hear alarms and we needed to be afraid.
It
So,
looks like
yeah,
this missile fell in front of a like a shop,
shop.
like a
Yeah.
food store, a bread store or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't quite tell. It looks like similar buildings that I'm used to in Kazakhstan.
Yeah. So what you can see, this is not they destroy military, that they destroy, strategic places. No, they bring terror, and it's what happened in Kharkiv. And what they did hit the biggest, like a town with the highest and the most. Probably the most modern buildings that they had, in the sense of for people to live in. Thousands of people were living there, and they were just destroying one by one almost this big 12-story buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, can we see it?
Sure. Let me. I'm going to keep going. Okay. You just tell me when to stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
You want me to
Yes,
keep going?
and this is the video because we come to this district.
Let me bring this up now,
Yeah,
Zbyszek.
let's put it
I'm
in.
going to share it. I'm going to hit the share button, and I'll start showing the video when I find it, and I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
You tell me.
I'll be quiet. Of course.
You'll talk over it, or I guess we'll just listen to it. Okay, just a minute.
And we used to come to, in the middle of buildings, this district of buildings, bring food, essentials, some things for us to use at home. And we were coming in and sharing it with people in there, divided in small plastic bags, putting flies, sugar, some biscuits, meat cans, things that people can use and cook with, oil and this kind of stuff.
Okay, just a minute. I'm still trying to share. Just a minute. Give me a second. Okay. That was the PDF. I have to try to find the actual presentation here.
So people come to us, and most of them are older people, because the younger people or the family or families left first, probably 2-3 weeks of the war, because they all lived in basements, and they were bombing day by day, and it was impossible just to stay there. Probably the biggest group, or what we could see on news, was the underground subway, where people hide and live there for weeks. In this area, there's no subway, so they all lived in basements, and the buildings were some of them were destroyed, some were burned, because they were just shooting with rockets towards the buildings, and there is no military base or whatever in there.
Yes, I'm finding these actual PowerPoint. Okay, I think I found it. Okay, so let me go to this. Okay, and now I think I can share that. So just a second here.
Thank you.
Bear with me here. Can you see it on the screen right now?
No,
You can. Is that
still
yes?
see a PDF picture.
Ja przyjechał z Polski, oni przyjechali dwoje z Holandii.
I can hear it.
Zabrali te деньги, zakupili jakieś produkty.
That's okay. Tim, it's
I'm
okay.
sorry, Zbyszek, I thought I had that all figured out. I apologize.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. So the Kharkiv was the first place we were coming. The good thing is that Kharkiv was so known by media that there are many organizations coming and helping, and it's not as dangerous as it was before. So we're pushing a little farther. We're going farther east, and we went. If you put the next one,
Okay, let me go there.
slide. Yes, it's a town called Kupiansk, and it's important town because the next slide also will show, because it's on the crossroad of the railway, and the Russians took over that town because they needed this connection, because it helped them to go south and bring some more supplies as well. It gave them also an opportunity to go more west if it was. They were there for 6 months. They took over for 6 months, and the next slide shows that when you were entering the town, they painted the name of the town as you see, and the symbol of the town they painted into Russian flag. And why it's interesting and important that when the Ukrainians came, and we have Ukrainian soldiers on the picture, when they liberated the town, they repainted this, of course, into Ukrainian flag, and you can see it also on our YouTube, or you can see it on my Facebook, and we talk about it on video, what happened in this town. So if we go farther, well, the next one, we just it's just picture, but it would be a video there, and we help there in the kitchen, which cooks for 2,000 people a day. So here we bring the heaters, small heaters, so people can take home. And also we left some in the kitchen, and we visited it already twice, and helped there with food, also with heating system, a little bit more, much bigger heaters than that. The problem today is that Russians are trying to be back, and maybe because we are going there next week, but I don't know if we are able to enter the town because they are under heavy attacks, and hopefully they don't enter into the town, but they try to, because it's a very key city for them. Okay, and then we go farther. And from that Kupiansk, we go south, and it's another town which you can find on the map, and it's called Izum. It's not a very big town, I think less than 50,000 even. But going towards there, we passed some villages, and I would like you to see the pictures of the villages that we passed. If you can show now these pictures. So these are the villages. There are no people in these villages, although there lived a couple of thousand in each, because they are totally destroyed. We were shocked. Yeah, let's go to the next picture, and there are next and next, and they show. So we enter one of them and went inside more to see, how these buildings look like, and it's just, it's the all the villages are destroyed, and these are the the rockets that we can see in there left, and even as Russians like to do, the tank that was left. So the question is, how does the war look like in Ukraine?
I have a question for you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
You just said that the Russians like to do something. I don't know what you mean by that. You mean they left the tank? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was their
They,
tank?
they do things like that. And why? Because even in this town, the family told us the story. They had a small shop, and about 3 Russian soldiers came, and they said that about 8 of their tanks were destroyed, and they were in the one that was not destroyed but couldn't really shoot. And the commander was saying, it doesn't matter, you just need to go forward. We don't care, you just go. They said, but they will kill us. They just killed 7 others. And they said, it doesn't matter, you go. So they said, we left the tank, we jumped out, and we came here to this town. Please tell us how far is the border with Russia. We are going home. So it's why I say, and you can see on the side of the roads, tank, when you drive, you can see destroyed tanks, or somewhere farther in the field you see tanks standing there, because it's what they do. This is one of the buildings. It's like 9 or 11. This one is less, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know 6 or 7 store buildings. And you would say that there are 2 buildings. The truth is, it's one long building, but the airplane bomb was dropped on it, and all entry to this building was destroyed and just to the ground, as you can see. And I think 52 people died. It was in the morning, about 9 o'clock in the morning. And the guide who was leading us said that there were families that he knew also. So there are buildings like that in many of these Ukrainian towns, especially in the eastern part, but also in Kharkiv, probably near Kiev, where we visited also the towns near Kiev, where Russians.
Excuse me, Zbyszek, that Gresset's green and yellow fencing, is that a playground for children?
Yeah, it's a playground in front of this building. So the children used to come and play, and the families lived in there, and they could look through the windows. You know how if the children play safely, and
yes,
and yes, and it happened in the morning. I mean, it's
This is disturbing because I remember when we came over to Kazakhstan. You remember that my son Chris was maybe 8 or 7, and Courtney was maybe 5 or 6, and they played outside all the time with
it looked like exactly, and it's happened there.
And the playground was in the middle of we lived in a region called Samal 2, and we lived on the 5th floor at first, and in the middle or behind us the Russian kids played, and in the front the Kazakh kids played. So the Kazakh kids would fight over Chris. Oh, we want the American boy. We want the American boy.
Oh, really?
They would play chess, and then
okay, I see now.
But then the Russian kid lived behind us, and he had a dog, and he was like, "Oh, come to my house. I have a dog. I have a sabaka, a dog. Come to my house, Chris." And Chris was like torn into 2 different directions.
I can understand it.
Yeah. But Chris used to sit out and play chess with a Kazakh boy whose name was Nurbul. Mm-hmm. And they thought it was funny because Chris is Krysa in Russian means rat. So they teased him.
They
teased him
a little bit. Of course, the kids find something that is, of course.
Yeah, like every kid around the world,
Yeah. So we come there and we visit this, and what we do, we tell these people that this is evil. This is not a war, and we don't need to repeat it. Of course, they know that, but they need to hear from somebody who speaks with an accent, that we agree that this is not normal. What happens?
What do the most of the Ukrainians want the West to do?
Yeah, of course they want a military help because they are not strong enough to stand against Russia. Russia is a huge country and very military, very strong. As we know, I mean, until this war, we would call them the second, the most
Yeah.
powerful military. Today, we don't know. Maybe we don't know about technology, but for sure their soldiers are very
The way
far in the hierarchy these days.
the way I think about it is I'm guessing the Chinese are probably close to the top.
Yeah,
Maybe the
sure.
US is second. I don't know anymore. It's hard to tell
I
until
don't
there's
know, but it's for sure not Russia. Is not as high.
no, I think the
So,
Russia's maybe third
so
or
it's
something.
one thing. It's what they want. They need some military help. But the second thing, what they want is that we say, guys, you are part of us. We don't leave you there with these barbarians, and we will help you. And when the war ends, we still will help you to be more with the Europe and with the Western world, and left with this, this kind of attitude and this kind of because the Ukraine is, I think, the most what they are shocked. They understand Russia wants to take over because Russia is Russia. It always was the same. But what they don't understand is how they do it, and that they kill civilians, that they stand against their brothers, that they don't respect the the style of life that Ukrainians had, and not very different than the Russians. They are not attacking only strategic places, military bases, and they don't fight with militaries. They destroy and they bring terror like terrorists, and in the worst picture. I think Al Qaeda was not able to do what they do, and ISIS was not able to do what they do daily. And we
Yeah.
know all they were terrorists. And how do you call this? So we come and we say, yeah, we understand the truth, and a part of it, what we do is what we do tonight, and my Dutch friends, they do the same in Holland, and I do it in Poland and in England. When I'm telling people, this is not far away. It's one thing, and the second thing, this is not the war. This is terror. They are killing just civilians, and they are destroying all the towns, and people need to run away from the war, and the war is, and they won't stop because they want to take all the Ukraine. It's
So
not that.
what do you think Russia is trying? I mean, their propaganda game in the United States, is it to try to convince Americans that there's a bunch of Nazis in Ukraine, or it's so corrupt, or whatever? Is that their? Do you think that's their propaganda plan?
Oh, they are lost. It was their propaganda before they start the war. They were saying we are not against the Ukrainians. We want to free Ukraine. But now the Russian soldiers came and they saw how the Ukraine looked like, and probably most of them could see that the life was even better than from where they came. So the Russians are changing now. They are saying we are not fighting just Nazis. Today they say we are fighting NATO.
Oh, okay.
So the big propaganda is we are fighting NATO, and the NATO is using you, Ukrainians, and Ukrainian land to
Okay.
fight against Russia, and that.
So
Mhm.
their propaganda, they're thinking of that propaganda about NATO more for the Russian citizens.
Yes.
Okay. Because
No, but also no, they try to spread it in Ukraine as well.
okay.
They try to spread it so the Ukrainians don't trust Western countries. But this is very weak propaganda. The truth,
Okay.
it's very weak because the Ukrainians, they could see Russian soldiers stealing things and destroying cities and raping women and kidnapping children. So it's not any good. So they only try to keep their face and save their face, and also mobilize more soldiers from Russia. So they
Well,
continue this.
I think we talked
This
back. Yeah, the last time I mentioned, because I watched a news program here, I think it was 60 Minutes or something, and they were talking about this actual policy that the Russian, from the very top, they were telling the men, go into the towns, rape the grandmothers, rape the wives, rape the young
Yeah.
girls, because we
Yes.
want to intimidate the men and make the men so basically give up and not have hope. And that's what that was the idea of what would stop the men from fighting, right?
Yeah,
Is that
but but it's not according to the rules, of the war. This is not according to the international laws, and it cannot happen. And the propaganda, Russian propaganda, the last of the minister of foreign affairs was saying that the Russia is protecting their borders against NATO, in this, war, which is, I mean, people are starting to laugh at it, the politicians and everyone. Sometimes, it's the lies are so obvious, that
well,
that
what are the
people
Baltic
come and they.
what are the Baltic and the Central Asian countries doing now? Are they
The
just kind of
The
watching
Baltic
carefully?
countries are, yeah, they are part of European Union, and they stand strong against, because they know that if Ukraine gave up, then they would be the next one.
Yeah, or
And the
Poland for
Central
that
Asian
matter.
countries politically also are afraid of it, so they try not to be of it. So they say that we don't support the war. They don't allow their citizens to go and join the Russian army, although they try to mobilize, they try to recruit. So the Central Asian, although they have their agreements, they have their international, they call it union of the former Soviet countries, but they said, this is your war, this is, we are not part of it, and we don't want to part of it. And everyone understands that behind these words is, if you give up and you lose, it's even better for us. Everyone knows that. So Russia is in a very strange situation, which shows that they've lost their reality. And it's, so we would say, okay, they probably lose because they've lost reality, but it's even more scary, because they are not logical, and you
Right.
don't know what they will do.
Do you think it's true that Putin has cancer or is dying? Do you think that's true?
I mean, I think nobody knows what's going on in there, and we are not able to know. We don't know even if he's still alive. It's all of this is people talk about it, and there are so many Putins that look a little different, and they are, on public TVs, and
Okay.
they
Now, wait a
speak.
minute. Do you literally mean that there's body doubles for Putin?
Of course, yeah, it's for sure.
Oh,
It's an old trick of the Soviets, and
yeah, yeah,
it was like that always, and so why not to use it? And
sure.
he's very traditional, and the Russians are very traditional in doing this war, so for sure they use that.
Right.
But
Well,
we
of
don't
course,
know in what condition he is.
a lot of people know about his biography where he said, because he worked in East Germany, right, as
Yes, it's a KGB agent,
yeah,
officer.
and he has a famous story about seeing a rat or something in a stairwell,
Mhm.
and he felt like trapped like the rat or something, and he used that to compare himself to how the rat felt or something. I somehow
Mhm.
vaguely remember a story about that. But should I
Yeah,
move on with some
please.
slides?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, there
I'll
are two
go.
slides that I would like to pay attention to.
Okay, let me. I'm
In
gonna
this hands,
get
this
myself out.
these people have a small heaters, they like $10, $12 each. And another next picture is the same sort of, because it's what we do. We bring what these people need, and and many times we are just, it's we are just ashamed in a sense, because we give these plastic heaters. Electrical, they're good heaters, but as I say, they cost less than $15, I think. and they keep it like a treasure, because this winter, thank to God, was not too cold, but they still needed it to warm up. So we bring this kind of stuff. But what's powerful in this are two things. One, we give it to their hands. We are not just sending help to Ukraine. We come with help to the houses, to individuals, to people in need, in bed, in ill, and in the basements, and we find them, we give it to them. And what we give it, simple things, but very practical, and the things they need, but also hope that we remember about them, that we care about them, that we give hope that one day you will, this thing, this evil will end. And I think the most important, we give them respect.
Yes. Can I just say, interject something? I just want to tell everyone who's listening. I watched Zbyszek when he was, how old were you when I knew you? 20?
Yeah, 21. Yeah.
I watched Zbyszek work with people for 3 years, and I can tell you, this guy, he knows how to work with people. He knows how to love people. He knows how to now, Zbyszek, I remember when you did Bible studies and you told people you have to come to the Bible study on time. And if you're not serious about the Bible study, then don't come. And I just remember, I thought, man, he's taking this seriously, and he really wants these people to be serious about their discipleship and following Christ. And I commend you for that. And I just know you are great with people. And I watched this guy work, and I know when he talks about putting these things into people's hands, please understand what he's talking about here. He's making a human connection that is more, all I can do, and it's really easy. Okay. I go to that website, that Dutch website at the top, and it says donate. And it's so easy. I just type in my credit card information or my debit card, and boom, I send out my money. But what you're doing, making this physical connection, is so important. I see it all, even in my new neighborhood. When I go out and talk to someone, like I talked to a lady this morning who's old and she's alone. And I said, hey, if you need some help, just let us know. If you need to move something that's heavy, let us know. And she looked at me and said, oh, thank you. Do you really mean that? Do you really mean that? Yes, I mean it. Just let us know. And, it's just a small thing, but it's so important.
Yeah,
Anyway,
this is very important for these people.
I just had to say,
because they hide there for they can get out sometimes for 6 months from basements or their houses, or from destroyed apartment buildings, and you just come to them and they are shocked that you came. And when they hear that you speak with an accent but you communicate, they are shocked because they can't believe that somebody knew about them. It may be from the last 8 months, it may be the most important meeting, the most important conversation for them.
Zbyszek, it's like, is it Saint Francis of Assisi or someone's prayer, the prayer of peace, where he says, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is dying, or where there's sickness, let me bring hope. Let me, he talks about, let me be your hands. Let me be your feet. That's what we're called to do as Christians in this world, right? We're supposed to be Jesus. Jesus is up. He's in the heavenly tabernacle being a high priest. So he's too busy right now with, he cares, but he expects us on the earth. We're here on the earth. He's up there as a high priest in the heavenly tabernacle. Read Hebrews about that. And we're called to be his hands and his feet. And if we don't, man, I mean, you read the Gospels, there's serious consequences if we ignore. I'm not saying you only have to respond to Ukraine, but what I'm saying is, we have to look for ways that we can help in real ways.
And again, we talk about the truth, about the lies, how deceitful they are. And on the next picture you see, so we come with this little heaters, that we bring, and of course food, and sometimes just clean water, so they can drink, because some in some towns or villages the water is poisoned and they can't even use the water. So I mean, it's very difficult. But when we come and we do that, you see this contradiction with what the Russians were presenting with their soldiers. The soldiers who were coming to bring the hope, the soldiers who were supposed to liberate them from the Nazis, as they say, yes. And what did they do? One of the on the pictures you have the washing machine, and it was in Sweden, I think, or Denmark, or Finland. It was in Finland, where the Finn men brought it to the embassy of Russia, and with the information, as you can read, please, take this washing machine, and then don't take it from the Ukrainians, because it's what they do, and it's what they've done. And please show another picture. And then this is what they were doing. So they were going to Ukraine, and they were just stealing everything what they could. And we have this, this drawing that shows that they, brought it home. Things that really was bathed in the blood of people.
What are those little? Are those little like toys? The man with the heater or the radiator and the toilet? What are those toys?
These are, you can put it on your fridge, and it's made by of course, it's made by Chinese, so they can make some money. But these are kind of souvenirs for the Russians, so they don't forget about it. What was happening.
So what is this?
Everyone
are they
knows
on Amazon or something? They sell them on Amazon.
Yeah, I guess. But
man.
it's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, they're like refrigerator magnets.
Yeah.
That's sick. That's sick. Hey, I have a question for you. What does that Z mean? I've seen that before. What does that represent?
Yeah, there's the Z and V letters, and it's what the Russian army, they sort of divided. There's another letter, but these are the most known. Z was from Zapad, which means the West. So they had all these, their soldiers had this Z as a West force, and the V one is from the East.
So that's Vostok. Well, Vostok.
Yeah, so it's how they started.
Okay.
But then this Z, became like the symbol of this, as they call, mission.
Oh.
So now it's nobody looks for Z or V. Everything is Z, which is like, we are the Z army.
We're like on the Western frontier, basically, right?
It's more, from on our side today, we all see that this more as like Germany, had the fascists. They had their sign, and it's really what it is, because it comes with fear, it comes with terror, it comes with death. And I think every Ukrainian letter Z will, associate only with one thing: it's destruction and death. So the symbol doesn't bring anything, any pride, nothing like that. So what they did is, I visit with families, and this family, they lived on the front line when the Russians came, and the first were coming people from the eastern parts, from Siberia, because the Russians are so smart that they don't send their soldiers or their citizens, Russian citizens, from Moscow or St. Petersburg. They take other nationalities from Far East who barely speak Russian, and they give them opportunity to earn some money with the war. And they say, you are a Russian citizen, you need to fight for Russia, and we will pay you for that. And they go. So this family was staying in their basement for 8 months. No electricity, no. They've made their own, in a sense, from batteries. From the generator later, but from the car batteries they could have some lights and other things. But no telephones, no nothing, because everything was destroyed. And they lived like 50 yards from the Russian base of about 3,000 or 4,000 soldiers, and the tanks and the Grads, which are the rockets they fly. So everything was next to their house. And just in the beginning, the story they told me was that when the frontline Russian soldiers were coming, in the front line. After them, there were not Russian army coming, but there were trucks coming. And the trucks were coming and they were stealing things from the house. And it was like 2 days, hundreds of trucks came through the town to steal everything was possible from the house. And they've heard somebody running in their house upstairs. So, they were scared, but they thought anyway, they kill us if they find us. So they came up and there were a couple of these guys from Siberia, saying, okay, what can we take from here? What do you have here? They said, I mean, we don't have anything what you could take. But so they say, so give us your safe. And I said, we have no safe. And they said, yes, you do have safe. Why? And you can see on the picture behind this boy, behind him, there is a safe. They pointed, it was in the kitchen and it was a microwave. So they thought it's a safe. And it shows, what kind of people are coming. And they were just, Siberian people living in the, some of them almost still in tents, but they
You said,
recruit them.
you said it was a family. Are these maybe I missed it, but are these brothers and a sister? What is how?
Yeah,
What are
the young boy is a brother and brother, sister, and her husband. Yeah,
okay? And where were they? Where was their original city? Where are they from?
yeah, it was the city of Izum. Yeah,
Okay, okay. Do you
yeah.
want me to go
So
to the
they
next
tell
slide?
us this story. Yeah. So we stayed in their house, and it was their bedroom, as you can see. And I just put this because it's very symbolic, as you can see. Oh, this is good. You can see the picture now well. So you see that the glass is this, broken, and the windows are broken. So you put the wood. You also hide it from the outside with wood, so you can see the lights from outside. And these are the, how they live the last 8 months, now a year. So we slept there, and from there we went even farther south to Donetsk area, and of course Bakhmut is the now very. I mean, the terrible situation is going over there. But Donetsk is a town that was taken by Russians, but they wanted much more. And we were going down, and there are heavy fights there. And it's called Donbass, and you can see it's the region. You can see the next picture, the next slide. And we went there because we were asked to help in, I think, was November or October. I don't remember the date, but there is like almost 100 children in one area who ran from the war. And one of the organizations, they had a projects because the kids ran away in summertime, but the winter was coming. So they asked us to help with the boots as well for them, the winter shoes, boots. And what we like about the project is that they shared with the kids the website, and it was a British shop, outdoors shop, and they showed them that, and they said, you can pick up which shoes you want from the website. So they took the code numbers and they ordered for every child, almost 100 children, the shoes they like. And this is what I like about this work we are doing. Yeah,
I think what that does is it adds dignity to the human being.
exactly.
And
And
it
I
says,
feel,
hey, we not only do we want to help you, but we want to take you to the store like you would in a normal
yeah,
time. Your mom or your dad would take you to the store, and
yeah.
you could pick things out, and you could be a real kid. I think that's great.
Yeah, so we try to do that because I mean, we want to help these people to go through this war. And we know that, as I said in the beginning, the war will finish, but they will need so much healing. So we try to do as much of this healing even now when the war is going. So we do show the respect. We show that they are individuals. We show that that we understand them, that they are important to us. So we did. So we helped with the boots, but later in January we decided we go and see these kids and we tell them the story and that we were happy to give them and we wanted, just to spend time with them. So if we go further. Uh, So yes, so we visited them, and as you can see, this is from the photos. They got, their own shoes, in their own box, and the color they wanted, and I mean, it was great. Yeah. And father. But to get there, we needed to go about 150 miles, I think, south along the front line. Sometimes 30 kilometers from the front line. I mean, 30, which is 20 miles from the front line, 10 miles from the front line. And as you can see on the picture, you don't see the names of the towns anymore because the Ukrainians painted all these signs, so the Russian soldiers, army couldn't find the right direction. So it was one, not easy thing. The second, that it's winter time and it gets dark very quickly. So after 4 o'clock, it's getting dark, and we were driving about 7 p.m. So it was kind of like a middle of the night. Everywhere in winter time we all go to bed much quicker. And the second thing, if you use the GPS, the navigation, what happens is they messed up with the navigations, the military. So I put the name of the town where we were going, or village where we were going, because they send me, the friends there send me the name. So I put the name there. And it was difficult because you drive and the navigation shows you, the GPS shows you that you will be there in 40 minutes, and you go for 10 and it shows you that you will be there in an hour and a half. And then after 5 minutes, it shows you that you will be there in 10 minutes because the GPS messed it up, and the same happens with the miles. So you don't know really, you only believe that the dot is showing you the right direction. So we were doing that. We were going slowly. The army trucks without the lights and going fast, and we tried to, with our van, a Ford van, trying to go along. Every time, about 30, no, 30. It will be about, again, 20 miles. There are checkpoints, and they check your passport. They check what you have on your back in the car, and you talk to the military there, and they allow you to go because you come with an aid and all this stuff. So we were going like that, and we've arrived. So we arrived there. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening. I called the friends and I say, okay, we came to the town, but where's the house? And they say, oh, guys, we turned the lights on so you can see us come, and we are waiting for you. So I look around and I couldn't see any lights, and so I wrote them, okay, send us the coordinations where you are again. So they send it. I put it into the GPS, and it shows that we are still about 50 miles away. So I said, hey guys, something is wrong. We are not where we should be.
Yeah.
And they said, so where are you? So I gave them the name, and they said, you should not be there. It's a front line, guys.
Oh no.
Yeah. So we were shocked. There were no cars. There was nothing. So I said, so what should we do? And they said, don't move. I mean, we will be there in the morning because we were supposed to go there and bring some help. But now what you can do, just go back. I said, we don't go back because we don't know, what's going on with this GPS.
Now, Zbyszek, I remember you used to work for an organization called the Navigators, right? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
You weren't such a navigator then, were you?
Oh, I was lost. Yeah, I was lost. And before we went, I said to myself, I need to be careful because, it's so easy to be lost in these roads. And I tried to be careful, and follow the GPS, but GPS was not doing well. So, okay, so I went out and I looked for some, houses in the village, but everything is, the lights are off because they are afraid that, if we have lights off, it's easy target. But I saw one light in the garden, so I went to that house and I knocked, and nobody, is answering. So I knocked louder, and there was a man voice, saying, "Who are you? What do you want?" And they said, "Oh, I need to talk," And so they heard probably the accent a little bit. So So they said, okay, who are you? And I could see, that there is a guy coming with a Kalashnikov to the door, and you don't know who he is.
Yeah, that's scary.
So I said, we came with help and other things. So he opened the door, and there were two guys with Kalashnikov and say, what do you want? I said, oh, we got lost. But they were Ukrainian soldiers who were just resting. After 2 weeks on the front line, they were resting in this house. So they said, guys, if you need to go there, you can go, but you go about 3 miles farther, and then you turn right, and you just go straight as fast as you can, and you should be safe. So it's what we've done.
Okay.
That's what we've done.
Oh,
So
boy.
we were safe, and I am here. But the next day, we were coming sort of back, because not to this town, but another one, to bring some aid, some help. And when we were driving, I saw that on the left side, when we were driving up the hill, on the left side, there were no trees even. It was just a field. So we were such an easy target with our lights on on. I mean, it's just crazy. Okay, but we came to the town, and we brought the help. And if we go just with this picture, so you can see. Because we do also get to these front lines, not us very often, but the Ukrainian friends and organizations we work with, they do that. We just visit, in a sense. Okay, and the next one, if you can just go through. So we bring stuff they need, and food, and we meet children and help them, with what they need. But you can see how they look like, how they are dressed, and it's all kind of a military thing. It's 12 months now. And the next one, so you bring like boots, like shoes, like food. They come for these shoes, and what do they come with? They come with a gun. I mean, it's not what you expect, but this is what happens to you, even to children. And I always say, that we need to protect these kids, because they understand much more, they hear much more than we think. And they just, what do? They just try to be, fit in this world, and this is their world. So it's why it's so important to end it as soon as possible. And because these kids, they will need so much help after all.
Zbyszek, I taught school for 30 years. I can kind of tell age is he looks to me like he's maybe 9 or 10. Is that right?
Not more. Yeah, no
Okay.
more. Yeah.
Is that gun loaded?
Yeah.
Does it have
No.
bullets in it?
No. This is a toy.
Oh, it's a toy. Okay. Because it looks like a Glock,
Yeah.
It looks like a Glock. Okay. When I saw that picture, I thought, oh my God, are the kids like armed?
No, they are not.
They just are trying to look like the adults.
They just try to look like adults. They just try to protect their families. And we had refugees in Poland or in the Netherlands, and especially teenagers, a lot of problems with them when they came with their mothers. They ran from the war because they were upset with their mothers, with their grandmothers, that they took them. I think the most difficult was for the teenage boys to be a refugee. They just felt like, there are only women around, only children around, and us, and this is not our place. But it was their place. They are just teenagers.
Right.
But in their, mind, in their brain, they were like losers. They couldn't find their place there. They were ashamed to be with the women.
I think there's I don't know if you're familiar with the 5 aspects materials that our friend Steve Ramey has done and used, but there's a component of, they're basically saying that men and women are born, all of us, regardless of who you are, you're born with these aspects of, and one of them is savior, meaning that inside every man is a desire to keep people safe, to save or rescue someone in great distress. It's in us to try to protect, and you have a daughter, and now you have a grandchild, and I can guarantee you, Zbyszek, if some guy like a child molester walked into your daughter's house and you knew that he was a child molester, I can guarantee you would have a reaction, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a right reaction.
Yes, of course. And I'm the same way with my grandchildren. I don't want them to experience harm. I want them to learn. I want God to take them through a journey of that. It unfortunately involves pain and discipline, but but I still want them to, I don't want them to have to experience even some of the things I experienced as a kid. I want them to, I want to protect them from certain things.
Yeah.
And that's part of who I am as a male. It's the same thing with my wife. You know, when I lived in Portland and some things happened and I was worried that Antifa was going to come knocking at my door. Um, I kept a gun on top of my refrigerator because
Mhm.
I didn't know what they were going. This is Portland, Zbyszek. You watch the
Mhm.
news, Portland and all of the crazy stuff going on. So I thought, because people were writing about me on a blog. I won't go
Mhm.
into why, but I was missing people represented me because I wouldn't join in with the little lemming
Yeah.
games of following
Yeah.
BLM, basically. And so I kept a 9mm on top of my refrigerator. And let me tell you, if anyone was going to walk into that house represented by Antifa, I would have used it. And
Mhm.
you know what? I would have gone to prison. I didn't care because my wife was in the other room.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just, I totally understand those teenagers in Poland, those
Yeah.
refugees. They want to be back with their dads and their brothers and
Yeah.
cousins and their uncles. I
Yeah.
totally
It's
get
very
it.
difficult for them. Yeah. It's a group that was very difficult. Yeah. Okay. Let's go quickly through some of the pictures just to show what we do also. And, this is another one with these kids, and it's a wooden gun, but still it's a gun, isn't it? Okay. Let's go further. Yeah, so we come to these towns and with help, and we can hear explosions, and on videos you can hear also explosions around, not close to us. We don't hear the bullets, but so it's safe. But still, it's not it's dangerous. But what's shocking is these people come, out of this building, somewhere from the basements, being there for 8 months, and if we can show next couple of them pictures, it's how they live there, so they come and they eat, they live only on what's humanitarian help brings. So it's not just us and only us, but we are part of it. So we bring food, we bring you will see next probably yeah. Yeah, and what was shocking to me, we were there about 2 o'clock, and it probably shocked me to the most, and I will always remember, is that they were dirty. They live in their homes, okay, let's say basements, let's say, but it's really hit me, that they were just, for months, because there's not enough water. I mean,
Okay,
it's
this is someone's grandmother. This is someone's
yeah,
grandmother, and
yeah, yeah,
is she dirty because she doesn't have running water?
yeah, 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 yeah.
So how long do they go without running water?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on the district of the town, but I think some for 6 months for sure. Yeah,
So do you think that grandmother sleeps in those clothes to stay warm?
could be. Yeah, could be.
Is that salad
Could be.
oil? What is that,
Yeah,
oil or
yes,
something?
this is the oil we come, so they can cook
Oh,
with.
okay,
And
okay.
I know with the kindergarten, I mean, with the kids, we also had, you know, we also were asked to bring underwear because they just smell. They just don't change their underground underwear because they don't have enough. So, but yeah, but it's what is said, that it's what happens to these people. So we share with them, and you would say it's not much, but again, you see, we give it with our hands, we give to them, and we share it with them, we talk to them, although it's dangerous.
Yes,
And
I
this
can
is a
see
very strong message. Yeah.
you have a flak jacket on and a helmet. How
Oh
often do
yeah,
you
you
wear
need to have it. You can't enter this area if you don't have it. Yeah.
how often do you have those things on?
No, I don't. Yeah, we don't have it too often because we don't go often to this kind of districts. The
Why did
locals go more often, but sometimes it happens. Yeah.
why did you wear it this time?
No, because it was very dangerous, and it was because that area is very dangerous, and the situation is changing every day, and even maybe twice a day. So you don't know, but it's not about that. But this is how they live, inside of this building. Sometimes in their apartments without water or electricity and gas or things like that, heat. Depends on the district. Depends where all of this is broken or not. And but so they cook, on the bricks. They cook meals. So we bring them these ovens that they can use outside, or they can put it on their apartments' balconies and use them. Mhm. You can put another picture, or maybe two of them, or two or three of them, because this is what we do. Yeah. So you see this metal,
Yeah, Zbyszek, what is that?
metal
What does it say?
kitas.
What is the word? What do the words say on it? Let me.
Yeah, this. Yes, this is this is a verse from the Bible, from Galatians 6:10, that we will do good as long as we can, as long as we can. And this is what we try to do. So they understand that we help them. But the interesting thing, these ovens, and the next picture also is with an oven, because we share them with the ovens. We share them so they can cook, they can warm themselves, because you just put a little bit of wood, as you see in there, and then on the top you can put a pot and heat water, make soup or something like that, and you can do it outside, or you can even do it on a balcony and almost in a flat if it's empty. But so we do that. But very interesting is that these ovens were done by the guys who were drug addicts, and we helped them in Kiev, and they make these things, and we take them to the front line and share that. So we support these former drug addicts who are in the rehab center. We give them work, we pay for the materials, and they work and they make them. And
How
the
do they?
same is with the candles. Yeah, they make their own candles for the military, that the military can use. So we provide with some materials, and they make them. So again, what is it is about the value of a person, about a man, and we have some of them who really share that the war saved them, in a sense. The war showed them that they have dignity and that they can do something for others.
I was just going to
And
ask
they
you
were,
that. I was going to ask you that because I was thinking about how, back to the dignity thing about letting the kids shop for their clothing, that in a different way, this allows a man who probably feels embarrassed or shame that now he knows I'm contributing to the war effort.
yeah, yeah, I'm doing good, and
Yeah.
I'm needed.
It's
So
like
this is our part of a therapy for them. And with that group, we also now during this trip we are going to the tuberculosis hospital, and these rehab guys will repair this hospital as well. And this is an evacuation vehicle which drives around the streets from time to time and gives a chance to people who still are there to go away. And believe me, not everyone wants to leave, and it's shocking because I could see 20 years old guys, and of course the grandparents, no children, but sometimes there are, but children left with parents, or they just send them. But I was probably the most shocking for me was one, that they were dirty during a day, midday. But the second thing was this man who is on the picture. Maybe you show him. And this man who came, and he got, some food, but also got that oven. But I was shocked because he was well. Her hair was cut well. He was shaved. He was clean, and he was dressed clean. And I just thought, my good, what is he doing here? I mean, it shocked me. I mean, this is probably, I was shocked with him no less than he was shocked with me, that this guy from foreigner is here, and I
Hey,
was shocked, And it again, I'm sorry, I don't want to, come back and say the same, but this is how you should fight the war, that you need to take care of yourself in a sense, and you need to be a man, you need to
Yeah.
be, and this is the way that I believe we are helping the Ukrainians the most, by coming there, talking to them, bringing things they need, but also spending time with them and telling them, you guys, we are with you, you are people and we are with you.
Zbyszek, how often do you go to Ukraine? How often?
We try to go every six weeks.
Okay.
Because it takes minimum of a week to prepare.
So
and now we have about 3 vans of stuff that was kind of ordered. We know what they need, so we don't go with a big truck because we are not able to distribute it in a proper way. But we usually go with 1 or 2 2 vans, and then we buy some more food in Kiev if it's needed, and the food that we need.
So can you tell us where you're at right now, or for safety should we not?
No, right now in Poland, it's safe. I have no problem.
But I mean, what city are you in?
Because we go on a Thursday, so I needed to come back to Poland. I was in London still
Visiting
last week, but now we're preparing. So we are we are packing next 2 days, and we are ready to go. Yes, and of course, on the 8th of March, we have a big celebration in our home, because it's 8th of March, which is an International Women's Day.
Vasmaya Marta. No, right?
Yes, I'm just. I knew you know about it, so I'm saying. I thought you will hear the bell. Yeah.
I have a funny story about that. So once in Almaty, I bought flowers for Sabrina. And I was carrying them, but I was carrying them upside down. And some ladies laughed at me. And I thought, I still to this day don't know why. So either my fly was undone, on my pants, or I had the wrong number of flowers, because if you have even number of flowers, that means that's bad luck, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they should be odd number.
Exactly.
Or maybe I wasn't supposed to carry them upside down. Maybe they thought that was weird. I don't know. But they laughed at me.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I barely survived.
I don't know what I can say. I don't know.
Anyway, International Women's Day. All right. Remember your ladies.
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
Yes, in 2 days. Okay. And this picture is just the soldiers. But in January we were there last time, and the first February is short, so we are going in March. But in January we heard more stories about cousin who died, father who died, neighbor who died on the front line, protect your country. There are much more soldiers dying last 2 months than probably months ago, even maybe the last 8 months.
So this
it's
was
just
ceremony.
Because the war has changed.
Yeah, it's kind of a ceremony. Oh, I see. Okay. Wow.
So we heard that, and we hadn't heard it when we were there 6 months ago. People were dead, soldiers were dying. So it's not the war has not ended in Ukraine, and this is just at the end. The Dutch Civilian Action is the organization that we are creating still. We are going through. It's not old. It's just 1 year, but it's people who want to help civilians, who want to help civilians, people who want to help people, and they're trying.
Yeah, and it's a great organization. It's very easy to give to. I put their website page at the bottom, and if you go up to the top right, you'll find a give button, and it's just like any other organization. You can easily figure it out. And please, I make an appeal to all of you listening and thank you, Zbyszek, for what you've given us 3 or 4 hours of your time. We really appreciate that. Zbyszek is a new grandpa. I had to take him away from his precious grandson when he was in London. And I know he wanted to spend some quality time. I hope you had quality time. Zbyszek,
Mhm.
I know, I want you to know we're going to be praying that you take good care of yourself,
Yeah,
because
thank you, John.
people like you
Mhm.
who, if you're a person who takes care of a sick parent, or if you're a person who's dealing with trauma, or if you're a doctor who deals with, abused people or whatever, it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of you. And so, man, we're going to be praying for you. Is there what would you like us to do? I mean, in terms of prayer or money or whatever.
No, I mean, of course, for safety, because it's important, but also always with the funds, it's important also with money, because, as you know, it's longer, then there's less money, people are tired, and we can see inside that people that we work with, organizations, the people got tired, of that. And it's, of course, it's this, but I also want to say that the grandchild, but I asked myself even before the grandchild was born, what will I tell my grandchildren, one day when they ask, Dad, what did you do when there was a war in Europe,
Mhm.
and I wanted to tell them, because I think it will be a lesson to them, that I was helping people, and I was taking care of the others who were the victims of war. And I remember, because I like to listen to the stories that my grandfather was sharing about the Second World War,
Mm.
and it was special for me, because I felt like, he was part of it. He did
Yes.
he was there, and I hope my grandchild will hear the same,
Yeah.
that I
And
was not just ignorant in all of this.
I'll tell you, in 2009, I went down the Danube River, and we stopped off at a town called Mauthausen, Austria, where there's a concentration camp. It was the last
Yeah,
concentration camp freed by the Allies. Zbyszek, that had a profound effect on me.
of
And
course. Yeah, I understand.
and not just because of what the Nazis did, but because I realized back in my own country, there's
Mhm.
horrible things still going on, abortion or whatever, horrible
Oh, well,
things,
yeah, many different.
people
Yeah.
mistreating people. And there was a place there at Mauthausen, which was a rock quarry, and the old men
Mhm.
had to go down a rock stairway, and if they couldn't go down it because they were weak, the German troops they called it parachuting them. They threw them
Mhm.
over the cliff, and they would go splat on the ground, and they would ha ha, ha laugh about it. These are inhuman, subhuman people, but
Yeah.
they're human beings. This is what happens to a human being who gets
Mhm.
corrupted by an evil genius like Hitler or a Stalin or a Putin. They
Mhm.
buy the lie. They think they
Yeah.
blame their
Exactly.
economy on someone else, or they blame their bad Oh, we're horribly off economically because of the Jews or because of the Poles or because of the
Oh,
Slavic people or because of
or
whatever.
because of the Nazis or whatever.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be a Nazi. It can be
Yeah.
anybody. It can be
Yeah.
us if you're not
Exactly.
careful. So anyway, thank you for
Yeah. Thank you, Tim,
sharing.
for facilitating it. Yep.
Yes, and
Appreciate it.
I maybe what I can do with some of those raw videos is put them into a different format and maybe share them, or if they need
We will
narration.
work on that. No problem.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Are you able to I wanted to close with this little Easter thing to give us a little bit of hope. Are you
Mhm.
able to see this? Just a minute. Let me do something here. I mentioned this just a second here. Okay. Are you able to see this? Are you able to see
No, I
that?
can't read it. No, it's too
Okay.
small for
I'll,
me.
I'll just read it. This
Yeah.
comes from Zbyszek, do you know what the word liturgy
Yeah. Yeah.
means? Okay.
Of course.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what you
Yeah.
know.
No, it's okay.
I know you're a smart guy, but
Yeah, of course. Educated.
you're very educated. I mean, how many languages do you speak?
No, come on. Let's read that.
No, really, I want to know how many languages do you speak?
Yeah. It's all right.
Come
Don't
on,
worry. Don't
come on.
worry.
How many?
No. I
4?
don't like when Americans ask these questions. It's not fair.
I know
Because
you
then
speak
they
English.
say, "Oh, and I
I know you
don't
speak
know
Russian.
it."
I know you
Just
speak Do you speak Spanish or French?
No, I don't speak Spanish.
What about your
And no
kids?
Japanese. And not
Oh,
Japanese.
come on. Get with it. Come on. You got
Yeah,
spare
please.
time. Learn Japanese. Come
Please
on.
do.
Rosetta Stone or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to close with this. And
Okay.
this is from a book called Every Moment Holy. And you can find it on Amazon. But it's basically liturgies for everyday things. There's even one for when the electricity goes out. So I was thinking, man, when I lived in Kazakhstan, I could have used that liturgy.
Interesting.
But this one is called, with Easter coming on in about a month, it's called A Liturgy of Praise for Christ Who Conquered Death. And I'm just going to read it.
Yeah.
The victory is ours, O King. Or I'm sorry, the victory is yours, O King. Now claim what is your own. Every inch of earth, all the span of heaven, field and skies and stars and seas, all continents and forests, all nebula and galaxies, all creatures and all peoples, all principalities and governments, all of time and history, all wonders and mysteries, all loves, all hearts, all lives. All this is yours. The crown, the throne, the prize, the name above all names, the kingdom and the joy, the glory and the praise, the victory over death, the conquering of the grave. O King of Kings, we offer our eternal adoration. Now, let your resurrection at last be worked through all the fabric of creation, till every fiber, every atom, every particle in play is bathed in holy light, consecrated forever as your own, till every sorrow we've sustained is redeemed, restored, renamed, till ones we've loved and lost and grieved are joined to us again, till all the brokenness that breaks our world is by your word made whole. You made all things well, O Lord of life, O King of creation, O Christ who conquered death. You have made all things well. So I'm going to leave it there, Zbyszek, on that high note of hope. And, you and I are Christians, and we have a worldview that tells us that, you know what, when it seems like all hope is lost, it's not, because we have the master chess player. We have the one who sent his son to crush the serpent's head, even though he struck his heel and bruised it. And we know, we're looking at the bruising, right? We're living in the world. Paul called it this present evil age. And it is. This is a present evil age. There's evil going on. But there is an age to come when Christ will be completely in charge. And I'm longing for that day. I know you are too.
Amen.
And we're looking forward to the day where we can sit with our grandchildren and not worry about our enemies, and we'll be safe from our enemies, and Satan will be in the lake of fire. And that's the day Christians long for, man. We long for it, but we are of the earth, and we engage in the things of the earth because we're his hands and his feet. And Zbyszek he's a finger and he's a hand. And, some of us might be elbows or a pancreas or a zygomatic process, a cheekbone. But we can all play a role, and it's not hard. It is not hard to do. You just go to that website and you click on give and you pray, and praying is so important. So I'm going to leave it there, Zbyszek. Thank you so much. We love you, and we will pray for you and your children and your new grandchild, and enjoy every moment. And hey, take care of yourself too,
Okay, cool.
Seriously, I'm serious. Eat your Polish soup or whatever it is, and your Polish beer, whatever you like. There you go.
Yeah.
Beets, grow those beets. I'll grow some for
Okay.
you in my garden. I'll grow
Okay.
some beets. I'll call it Zbyszek's Beet
Go.
Patch. All
Go.
right.
Do
Okay.
it.
All right, Zbyszek.
Okay, Tim.
Bye.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right. We love you, man.
Good night.
Okay. Take care.
Good night.
Okay. So, hey, that's it for today. And I hope I'm going to upload this. If you're listening live, I'll upload this to the YouTube site like I did before. And if you have any questions, feel free. You can email me at villascriptura at gmail.com, and I'll get that. Or you can send me a Facebook message if you have any questions, or if you have any additional questions for Zbyszek, or you're wondering about this organization, this Dutch organization. I'd be happy. I'd be happy to tell you what I know. I mean, I've just kind of looked at their website, and Zbyszek has been gracious over the course of several months to send videos, and he's posted them on his Facebook page. I'm sure that if you requested his friendship on Zbyszek on Facebook, that he would be more than inclined to say yes to that. And you can see what he's doing going on a daily or weekly basis. So, man, I tell you, he is a special guy. I'm so blessed. I have some really interesting people in my life, friends in Oregon. I have interesting people living in Germany who've lived in Turkey, and I'm just blessed to have crossed paths with these people, because they are amazing, amazing people, and they're just God's servants. And so, anyway, thank you for joining us, and I wish you all the best. And it's time for me to sign off and let my voice rest, and maybe take some kind of throw lozenge or something. But anyway, you guys have a great evening, or whatever time of day it is. If you're in Kazakhstan, I think it's like 3 or 4 in the morning right now. So you guys are just waking up. And hey, I just wanted to say, I think it's the 14th of March, I'm going to interview Baket Yusinov, who runs that orphanage I mentioned in Taldykurgan, Kazakhstan, just north of Almaty. And he's serving older kids who are often kicked out of orphanages because, they're not cute anymore, and people from the West aren't, I guess, adopting them. And, think about it. If you're 17, 18, 19, you get kicked out of your orphanage and you're told, hey, just, go live. Think about that, how tempting it would be to steal or maybe enter into prostitution to make ends meet. I mean, it's just, this guy is doing such an important work. I mean, it's kind of, it's sort of that bridge that kids need between an orphanage and adulthood. And, the scriptures say that we need to watch over widows and orphans in their distress. And I mean, how much more distressing could that be? So I'm looking forward to talking to Baket. If you're interested in giving to any of these ministries, and you give more than $20, and you just write me and say, hey, Tim, I gave $20, and you live in the continental United States, I will send you a coffee cup that looks like this. It's a great coffee cup to take to a Bible study or Sunday school. It says, I can do all things through a verse taken out of context. You'll keep the Bible study teacher honest, I assure you, with this cup. I also have a bracelet, black bracelet. I've got one on here. And on one side, it says, you matter, mortal. And on the other side, it says 1 Corinthians 15, 21 through 23, which talks about the resurrection, the coming resurrection that coincides with the coming of Christ. It doesn't coincide with dying. It coincides with the coming of Christ. And that's an event that all of God's people will share in simultaneously. That's what the scriptures teach, whether you like it or not. You just read 1 Corinthians 15, 21 through 23 and ask yourself, what's the time marker here? When is this resurrection happening? At his coming. Oh, at his coming. Has that happened yet? Well, his first coming, but it's talking in context about his second coming, which, believe me, everyone will know when that happens. Read Revelation, you'll see. At his coming. The other side is kind of a slam on Gnostics. You matter was if you're from the Pacific Northwest, there was a big thing where lawn signs and people put "you matter." I think it started out really well as an anti-suicide or self-esteem thing or whatever, trying to encourage people to, hey, man, you matter. Don't kill yourself. Like, you're important and you do matter. And that's a great message. But the lady, yeah, man, if you go to her website, she's like way overcharging for those signs. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the shipping is expensive. I don't know, but it just seems kind of ridiculous. So I kind of took this and sort of a double meaning. So you matter, as in you are matter, whether you like it or not. You're matter. You're mortal. There's nothing. You do not have an immortal soul. Again, I'll say it. You do not have an immortal soul. Immortality is a gift given to you by God at the resurrection. You'll know at the resurrection if you have immortality, because that's what we're waiting for at his coming. 1 Corinthians 15, 21 through 23. I know that sounds bizarre and it's not what you've heard at church, but it's what the Bible says. The Bible tells me so. Isn't that what we go by? The Bible tells me so. Not what the pastor tells me necessarily, but what the Bible tells me so. And I know there's the thief on the cross, Lazarus and the rich man, and I'll get into that in a future thing. Those things can be explained, or things need to be taken in context, or things were never said at all that are just, you hear them, but then you read like 2 Corinthians 5 and you go, wait a minute. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. That's what the pastor is always saying. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. But wait a minute. That's not in 2 Corinthians 5. Wait a minute. Maybe I need to read 2 Corinthians 4 and realize Paul talks about not wanting to be naked. What does he mean by that? Okay, I'm going to leave it there. You explore that. Start at 2 Corinthians 4 and then read all the way to 5 and then ask yourself, what is the context? Is it floating out of your body at death like a ghost, or an immaterial so-called immortal soul that there's nowhere in the Bible that teaches you have? Or is Paul talking about the future at his coming, that one, resurrection, when he'll be clothed? He doesn't want to be naked. He doesn't want to be an immaterial, without a body ghost living in some holding pen. All right. That's just not his thinking. It's about resurrection. And the Gnostics taught, like Plato and others, well, the Gnostics were influenced by Plato, but they taught that, your matter is evil and the big thing is to escape it, which is, think about it. That's kind of what people talk about at funerals. Uncle Joe, he's up looking down on us and he's seeing us right now. He's up there. Well, what's up there? His ghost? Because surely he hasn't been awarded in a body yet, because that's what Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 15. So anyway, just some things to think about. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Okay. I'm not trying to, create waves. Okay. Paul did that in Acts when he went before the Stoic and Epicurean philosophers. I think it's in 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. Read about that. Please take note of how they treated him when he opened his mouth and said, resurrection, resurrection. And you'll find out that's what happens when you talk about resurrection. Same stuff happens. Anyway, I will send you a bracelet if you want this, or the coffee cup, or I have a little black button that says in white writing, you matter, comma, mortal. In other words, you're made, whether you like it or not, you're made of solid, liquid, gas, plasma, if you want to be technical, but you're made of the stuff of the ground that you find, the chemicals in the ground. Now, we are made in the image of God. That makes us really special. That's true. We're made in the image of God, and we're given this capacity to live and act with the values that God lives and acts with, like love, justice, a hunger and thirst for righteousness, things like that. Your basic squirrel doesn't wake up and say, I'm going to live for righteousness today. I'm not going to steal that bird seed from Tim's bird feeder because, it's not right. Okay, think about it. The squirrel does not wake up like that. It has an instinct that says, eat, 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 eat. I do not care what Tim thinks. I do not care if Tim shoots marbles at me with a slingshot. I just want to eat, 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 eat. and make noise, and drive everybody crazy. And anyway, I have not eaten the squirrel yet, so just my day may be coming with these guys, these varmints. But anyway, I've said enough, I think, and I need to rest my voice. So again, $20 if you say I want to give to the orphanage or Zbyszek's, the ministry, the Dutch ministry that we mentioned. Now, if you do decide to give to the orphanage, just send me a note. It's really easy. I've gone down to Walmart a couple times. It's so easy. All you need is Bucket's full name and his city, and then they give you a number, and then you email that to Bucket, or you can do it through me too. That's fine. In other words, you could forward the money to like Zelly or something, and I can send it off to him. But and I'm not doing any tax stuff and all that crazy stuff. So I kind of would rather you just dealt with it. But if you decide to give 20 or more to his ministry, just let me know. Facebook me and I'll give you all the information. It's really easy. You go down to you go to customer service at Walmart. You say, I want to send money to Bucket Yusinov, but I use his whole name, so you need that from me. Yeah, so I just got a signal that I was going to be disconnected, but anyway, I should leave it there and just email me and I'll give you the information. It's super easy. So you guys have a great evening and adios.